Welcome to Have You Heard with Heather Darling. I'm Heather Darling and today's guest is Jack Ciattarelli. Jack served on the Raritan Borough Council from 1990 to 95. He was elected to the Somerset County Board of Chosen Commissioners, then freeholders, where he served from 2007 to November of 2011. And in 11, Jack successfully ran for the Assembly in the 16th Legislative District, where he served from December 5th of 2011 until January of 2018. Jack ran in the 2017 Republican gubernatorial primary, and 2021 he won the Republican gubernatorial primary. After losing by a narrow margin in the gubernatorial general election, Jack announced that he would be making a third run at the office in 2025 and has been working hard at winning ever since. Jack earned his BS in accounting and MBA in finance from Seton Hall University, and his professional experience includes being a publisher and the owner of Galen Publishing, LLC. Welcome to the show, Jack.
Heather, it's great to be with you, and you're very kind to mention all my public service, but thank you for your public service as well.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So let me ask you this. You have been all over the state. We were just talking before we started moments ago about the places you're going to be this week with all the reorganization meetings and everything. Have your travels around the state changed your positions on any of the issues from when you started back in 2017?
Now, the issues really haven't changed, Heather, because Phil Murphy refuses to fix the problems that plague New Jersey. We've got the highest property taxes in the nation. We need a new school funding formula. We know a great many school districts, particularly in your county, are screwed year after year after year. We've got the worst business climate in the nation, particularly on Main Street. We saw some recent reforms in Pennsylvania by a Democratic governor, I should say, that make Pennsylvania much more competitive from a business climate standpoint. We need to be regionally competitive. Certainly, we need to downsize our bloated, inefficient state government that's been corrupted by special interests. We need to support our state and local police who've been handcuffed by the Murphy administration time and time again, making their job all the more difficult. And of course, public school curriculum. We need to get it back on track and support parents, particularly with the more sensitive subject areas. So those are the issues. Phil Murphy hasn't solved them. In fact, in some cases, they've only gotten worse.
True, true. What are your top three out of those issues? What do you think are the top three key issues to solving getting New Jersey back on the right path to solving our problems?
While it is my intention to run again in 2025, my focus this past year were the congressional races. And we got Tom Kean Jr. over the goal line. In fact, he's in Washington right now. He was sworn in today. Coming up here in 2023, my focus is the legislative races. All 120 seats in the state legislature are back on at the top of the ballot. And we picked up a significant number of seats when I ran in 2021. In fact, it was the most successful night in 30 years for Republicans. We flipped 134 seats at the municipal and county level, more than 150 seats at the Board of Education level, and of course 8 seats in the state legislature, including beating the Senate president. I don't want to lose any of that ground. And 2023 is an exciting year because it's a new map. As you know, the maps are redrawn every 10 years. And we won those 8 seats in my election under a Democratic map. The new map favors Republicans. So I'm really excited about the notion of something we haven't had in nearly 2.5 decades, Republican majority in the state legislature. And as I always say to people around the state, just give us a chance. Let us show you what we can do on things like property taxes, the business climate, and downsizing state government. When you asked what are the top three, those are the top three. Property taxes, the business climate, and streamlining our state government and having it no longer be corrupted by special interests.
Okay, so talking now about the fact that you're running, I know that everybody's asking you this, and I know that the people want to know. Who are the other names that are going to jump in? Every year we hear, or every time, we hear 50 names, and maybe 3 or 4 come out. I think you've had 3 or 4 people in each of your races in the primary. So how many Republicans are going to get in the race, and who's it going to be for governor?
Heather, all I know is it's my intention to run. There's always competition, and competition is a good thing. It's a free country. Anybody else wants to get in there, I welcome that. But I'm not really one to be speaking out about those who may be getting in. I just focus on myself.
As freeholder director, you had a 3-point plan that was called the Suburban Solution, and you planned to address some of Somerset's biggest issues at the time, all of which were sort of combined into this thing called taxes. You had some sustainability issues where you talked about solar and you were buying up open space to make sure that you prevented that urban sprawl and kept some park space and things like that. How similar is the plan that you have now to the three-point plan that you had then?
Certainly with regard to overdevelopment, we've got to buy open space, and I see the state needing to partner more and more with the counties and municipalities for the purchase of open space. We've always wanted a certain amount of development because it helps, if you will, to stabilize the tax base and the local tax rate. But we can do that through revitalization as opposed to, and redevelopment as opposed to new development. When you really think about Phil Murphy's position on affordable housing, which we support, and when I say we, I mean Republicans, young people, veterans, disabled people, seniors need affordable housing, but it needs to be done consistent with smart growth strategies. I know here in Hillsborough, a very, very rural 50 square mile township where there aren't a whole lot of jobs, and there's only one highway, one lane in each direction, 206. We've been brutalized by builder remedy suits with affordable housing going everywhere. And it only leads to overdevelopment, which leads to stormwater management issues and then flooding issues, as we've seen in surrounding towns. So I don't think Hillsborough and Somerset County is any different. From a sustainability standpoint, we've got to stop with the overdevelopment that's happening through builders remedy suits. And we can do that by being smarter about the way we develop and have laws that deal specifically with what any town's affordable housing quota should be.
So I think that's magnificent. I think that certainly bears addressing because some of the issues that I see stemming from that are infrastructure related. So your stormwater management, of course, is part of it, but you're talking about a one-lane road. The one-lane road could be congested if all of those people had cars. But a lot of the people that we're talking about are in a position where they can't afford a car. They can't afford, especially in today's prices, with the tolls going up and the gas going up, to be driving all over. So they're taking public transportation, which is not necessarily available or readily available in my town. We have to pay a bus to go to my town to take the people to and from my town, and I'm sure you have something similar in yours. So, as to those issues, are you proposing to going back to the situation where people were able to buy credits in other areas where it made more sense, where they had the infrastructure built out to bring more people in, where there were more jobs and things like that? Or is it something different?
We need three things, Heather. First of all, I do advocate for a legislative solution. Right now, with fair share housing and the builders remedy suits, this shouldn't, how we develop, where we develop, how much we develop, should not be decided by Superior Court judges in Superior Court through builders remedy suits. We need a legislative solution that specifically lays out how much affordable housing we need and where best it goes. And part of that legislative solution is the second part for me, which I think we should bring back RCAs. Regional contribution agreements is something supported by the League of Municipalities. It's something that worked, and I do think every community should have a skin in the game. So by reforming the way we do affordable housing and bringing back RCAs, regional contribution agreements, doesn't mean that every municipality doesn't have a skin in the game. They should. And the third thing we need to do is make our cities across New Jersey vibrant, dynamic, robust areas for economic development and point our future population growth toward our inner cities so they can develop those self-sustaining eco-economies, if you will, that you and I see on a great many main streets in the counties in which you and I live. And that's the secret to New Jersey's future, in my opinion. You can't be a great state without thriving cities. And right now, unfortunately, over the course of the past 4 or 5 decades, our cities have been really plagued by economic injustice and blight. And we desperately need dynamic economic development. And part of that is driving our population growth, again, toward those cities. So that, to me, is the long-term answer.
Can our cities possibly be revitalized with the crime stats we've got today in our big cities?
Absolutely, they can. And this is where the Murphy administration has let down a number of cities, including ones that they've taken over, like Atlantic City. You can't have economic development without security. The first thing you have to do is provide security. And I think that we could do a better job with our major cities, with the state where the partner with the local leaders on providing greater security, and then the economic development will certainly come next.
So, as a member of the minority party in the legislature, you were met with limited success, unfortunately, for some of your initiatives because no matter how good or bad they are, if you can't get the support, it's irrelevant because they're not going to pass. So that being said, and earlier you mentioned about 2021 getting people in and this year being an election year. What is your plan for getting Republicans elected, and how do you think that the Republican Party can do better in the state of New Jersey?
Well, let me say first, my time in the legislature was certainly an honor representing portions of Middlesex County, Mercer County, Somerset County, and Hunterdon County. Not an easy district, but I was fortunate enough to win it 3 times. I think it's because I went out and talked about the issues that matter to a majority of people. I've never met a business owner on Main Street that said New Jersey is a great place to do business, and that includes Democratic business owners. Never met Democratic homeowners that said, I don't think property taxes are too high. They want their property taxes lowered. And you meet people all the time who are really infuriated because of their interaction with state government, whether it's getting an appointment in motor vehicles, getting an answer from Treasury on a tax refund, dealing with the Department of Labor and unemployment. So I think the key for Republicans, we've always been the party of ideas. We've always been the party of solutions. You've got to go out there to talk about the issues that matter to people and offer up solutions. Ideas get people excited. And when you do that with a very positive energy, I think it works wonders for elections. The common sense majority, mainstream majority is there for the taking, Heather. We just have to go out there and seize it. And in my opinion, the best way to do this with the right candidates who go out there with the right kind of energy and offer solutions to people's problems. That'll differentiate you as a candidate. It'll make you easy to remember as a candidate. And I think it's the kind of approach that wins elections.
So, Jack, our party, I should say the Republican Party, when we talk or when people ask us questions, it comes to, you supported this one, therefore you believe this, right? Even if you believe one policy, they think that you believe the bigger picture of a person as opposed to your own beliefs and supported a single idea. And the Republican Party seems to be very divided in our state these days. How do you propose, as somebody who would be considered a party leader, reuniting the Republican Party?
Certainly there's divisions, and it's not just in New Jersey. As we speak today, Heather, I don't know exactly when this segment will be aired, but as we're taping today in the House today, Kevin McCarthy's fallen short twice now on becoming Speaker of the House. So there's even division amongst Republicans across the nation, particularly those that are representing us in Congress right now. So to me, the key is to ask people as you go out, particularly Republicans, as you work your way through the primary, do you want to win in November? What's going to win in November? I would put my conservative bona fides up against anybody, but because I don't talk about the issues the way others do, people may not think I'm conservative enough. But you beat that by being out there every single day and talking to people. But I will remind people that here in New Jersey, we are the minority party. Democrats outnumber us by more than 1 million. And of course, we know there are also 2.5 million independent, unaffiliated voters. The key to winning an election is getting some of the soft Democrats to cross over and getting the moderate, those that lean right fiscally, unaffiliated independent voters to vote our way. And you don't do that by compromising on your Republican conservative principles. I've never done that. What you do is talk about your ideas for how to solve people's problems and do that with a positive energy. Listen, all I can tell you, Heather, is I ran twice in a borough for council in which Democrats outnumber Republicans significantly. I won twice. I won twice in Somerset County as a freeholder. Now they're commissioners. And that's when Democrats outnumber Republicans. And I won 3 times in the 16th legislative district, which represented parts, as I said, of Somerset and Hunterdon, but also Middlesex and Mercer. Democrats outnumbered Republicans significantly in that district. I was fortunate enough to win it 3 times. It can be done. You just have to go out there again and I'm sorry to be repetitive, with the right kind of energy and ideas on how to solve people's problems.
Jack, we
And
have to
it's my
take
hope this year that our 120 candidates for legislature will go out and do it that way.
let's hope. We have to take a quick commercial break.
Aloha! Joe Silva here with Kukua Technologies. I'm excited to see you on Tuesdays on Morning Coffee for our tech tips.
Let's face it, lawyers get a bad rap. I'm Erin Brucey, host of Legal Breakdown, where we dissect legal topics for the everyday viewer, with a mix of interesting guests to talk about current events and hot legal topics. Let's work together to make the law accessible and relevant to everyone. Catch us every week on RVN Television.
Welcome back to Have You Heard with Heather Darling and today's guest, Jack Ciattarelli. So Jack, before we took our commercial break, I was asking you how the Republican Party in the state of New Jersey can be reunited after what seems to be a divide. But now the Democratic Party also seems to be quite divided at this time. And, you know, the Republicans' much anticipated red wave in 2022 never really showed up. So assuming that Republicans can mend fences and capitalize on this, do you think that they can actually make more opportunities out of the divide from the other party in 23 and 24?
Well, I do, Heather, and we've seen this time again, particularly in the year that I won, when I talked about the seats that we won in the state legislature and all the local seats, Board of Education seats. What it says that at the end of the day, people will go out and vote for those people who they think are going to best serve their interests. I've always tried to set an example, particularly as the gubernatorial nominee in 2021, for how to campaign, how to message, the type of energy that needs to be brought to the campaign. And I took very seriously my responsibility to everybody down ballot. I mean, when you're at the top of the ballot, your job is to create energy for everybody down ballot, benefit everybody down ballot. And, you know, I hold my head high knowing that while I lost a very close election, everyone down ballot seemed to do very, very well, including winning in places where we hadn't won forever. We won a county commissioner seat in Passaic County. We won in Winslow Township. We won in Hardwood. We beat the Senate president. So we can win these elections. And my job this year, with all 120 legislative candidates back at the top of the ballot, is to go out there and help them win elections. And as you said, there's division on the other side. The progressives are very extreme in their positions. You see that on abortion. You see it on gun control. You see it in the public school curriculum. And there's a great many moderate Democrats who are turned off with the extremism of the progressives. So it's our job to capitalize on that, and it's my hope that we will.
Jack, you were a Raritan councilman for almost 2 terms. You were a freeholder for over a term. You were an assemblyman, as you said, for 3.5 terms, I think it was. Collectively, you've been in office for, I guess, about 16 years now. And we're in an anti-establishment period, it seems. So how do you think that people look at your service? Do they see you as that career political guy? And if so, what do you say to that?
I don't really think we're in an anti-establishment period. Certainly, there are folks, because of social media, that have a very loud megaphone that talk to this. But we just elected a guy who's more than qualified to represent us in Congress, and that's Tom Kean Jr. I think he's going to do a great job there, and that's someone who's dedicated his life to public service. I mean, anyone who ever wants to take that jab at me, I will always offer that I believe in term limits. For me, that doesn't mean they're right for everybody, but I served 2 terms in Raritan and moved on. I served 2 terms in Somerset County, moved on. Served 3 2-year terms in the state legislature, and you know, I didn't go there to accomplish small things. I went there to tackle the property tax crisis. I went there to make New Jersey a better place to do business. I went there to downsize state government. And what I learned in short time, Heather, is, you know, when you're a freshman or sophomore in the minority, you're just not permitted to do that. So I decided that if I was going to put in that kind of time and energy, best to do it from the executive branch, and that's why I pursued the governorship.
Something I thought was interesting about your resume is that you were in Raritan on the council in '95. You left in '95, if I'm not mistaken. And I believe your kids were young, you were pursuing your business interests, and you had other things going on in your life. And then when your kids got a little bit older in 2007, you went back to the Freeholder Board. So where most people they would say are career politicians go straight through, it's not really something that you did until, let's say circumstances were appropriate for it. Not just in your life, but external circumstances kind of dictated that was the time for you to do what you did.
I appreciate you bringing that up. I did win election twice in Raritan, once in '89, then again in '92. Served the 2 3-year terms. I decided not to run for re-election, one, because I'm a term limit guy, but also because Melinda and I were having the first of our 4 children, and because I was going into business for myself in '95, '96, and I didn't want to be burning the candle at too many ends. I'm someone who likes to do something and do it well. I don't want to do something less than well because I'm doing too many things. The business, thank goodness, was very, very successful. And then I was approached by the county leadership, I think it was in 2006 or 7, as you mentioned, to run for county freeholder. Today they're commissioners. So yes, like 10 years had gone by that I was not in politics. And then after the 2 terms at the Summers County Freeholder Board, there was an opportunity to be in the legislature. And so, but I was moving on from the County Freeholder Board, whether or not that opportunity came up. But so listen, anyone that wants to say that I'm an establishment guy and use it in a pejorative way really hasn't done their homework. So I appreciate you bringing it up. But I'm just as proud as my private sector accomplishments, Heather. My first business was in the '90s, very successful, employed fellow New Jerseyans on Main Street, and then sold that one in the late '90s, started another one in 2001, and had a great run, sold that one in 2017. So I've employed fellow New Jerseyans, I've stimulated our economy, and pride myself on being a private sector guy who knows what's going on Main Street.
Kudos for that. In the last gubernatorial election, you were heavily criticized by your opponent for your position on school funding formula. Obviously, you haven't stepped off of that position any based on what you said earlier today, and I'm assuming you're not going to. Do you think that it's something that hurts you when it comes to those more middle-of-the-road Democrats getting their votes and getting votes of unaffiliated?
Whenever you talk about reforming the way the state distributes state aid for schools, the default position on the Democrats is always that you're anti-city, and some will even go as far as to say that you're racist, that it's an anti-black or anti-brown position because of the minorities that live in our inner cities. I'm never going to leave any child behind. I'm never going to leave any community behind. But I don't believe that any one community cost per pupil should be $32,000 when the cost per pupil here in Hillsborough is $16,000 per student. If we're going to hand out state aid, I think there needs to be accountability as to how that money is spent. And I think most people, reasonable people, would agree there should be accountability. You work in government. We don't hand out money to nonprofits and then expect there not to be metrics about how those nonprofits perform in taking care of our constituents. The situation should be no different when it comes to school funding. So again, I'm never going to leave any child behind. I'm never going to leave any community behind. But I do think there needs to be accountability, and that's essential to my school funding reform. But specific to your question, I think, again, the key is no matter what your opponent says about you, and opponents have said things about me that weren't true when I ran for borough council. Opponents said things about me that weren't true when I ran for county freeholder. Opponents said things about me that wasn't true when I ran for the state legislature. And even run for governor, Phil Murphy said things about me that weren't true. You've got to get out there and not let anybody else define you. If you get out there every single day, touch people every single day, look them in the eye, tell them what you're going to do, only you can define yourself. And that's what is one of the secrets, I think, to winning an election.
I think that's a great point. Jack, when you were in the Assembly, you were there for a while. What were some of your biggest successes, And how are they still benefiting the people of New Jersey today?
Oh, Heather, I wish I could say. Again, that's the challenge of being in the minority when you're in the legislature. The legislation you put up, whether it was specific to affordable housing, property tax reform, making New Jersey a better place to do business, they're just not going to post your bills. So my greatest accomplishment, I would say, is we ran one hell of a legislative office. We really were phenomenal at constituent services. And what I soon learned is if you can't get satisfaction out of getting legislation passed, what you can do is get satisfaction out of serving your constituents who would call the office every single day because they couldn't get a tax refund, they couldn't get the DEP to approve their permit, they couldn't get their unemployment benefits, they couldn't get an appointment at motor vehicles. I mean, those are all the things that I think the best legislators take great pride in. Of course, everybody wants to pass legislation. That's what legislators do. But the fact is, when you're minority, whether or not you're a freshman, a sophomore, or amongst the minority leadership, they're not going to post your bills.
Jack, let's take money, taxes off the table. Barring taxes and financial issues, what is New Jersey's biggest hurdle?
Right now, I believe it's the shortage of people that are entering the profession of law enforcement. And I know you're aware of this. Fewer and fewer people are going into a law enforcement career. And that's causing right now a shortage with regard to hiring at the state police level, local police level, and the county as well. We need to encourage more people to go into this profession. I think the state should provide a compelling incentive program, bonus program, if you will, for people to go into the profession. And once they're there, they need to know that they're supported. They need to know that local leaders, county leaders, state leaders, and the governor have their back. The job has never been harder. Mm-hmm. And right now, that's not the case. And in a number of ways, we've even handcuffed them to do their job as we know they can. So to me, that is the number one non-financial issue, if you will, facing the state today. Making sure that we support those that are in the law enforcement profession, doing all that we can to encourage people to go into the profession, and just supporting them in every way we can.
Last question, Jack. What is New Jersey's greatest asset?
Its greatest asset is the 9.3 million people who represent the most diverse population of the 50 states. And there's power and there's beauty in that diversity if we embrace it. And I see that as the responsibility of leadership today. We're not going to tolerate any form of bigotry. We're not going to tolerate any form of bullying. We're not going to tolerate any form of hate. We're in this together. But I just see that as New Jersey's greatest asset, our diversity. There's power and beauty in it if we embrace it.
Jack, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I appreciate your sharing your information about yourself, your positions with our viewers, and I'm sure people learned a lot, not just about you, but also some great ideas on the state of New Jersey, so thank you.
Heather, thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to next time.
Excellent. See you soon, my friend.